Is the um, second video that is associated with the October 16th remote session. And we're going to build off the last video and really dive into tools for the first time. And we're going to come up here, to the tools that is under the analysis tab, open up the toolbox on the right. Whoop, not what I wanted. And make sure that you browse. So that second one that says toolbox, you'll open it up. It'll be on favorites. Click toolbox. It'll look like this to start. And I want you to sort of open the triangle on analysis, so you can see the analytical tools we'll be focusing on. And then I want you to temporarily open extract. So for this lesson, what I want you to do is drag in from the demonstrating tools folder from clip and erase. I want you to drag in inside and outside. And just to sort of make the point clearer at the end, I also want you to drag in farmers markets as well to demonstrate. So the first tool that we'll show, and then we're going to show its cousin in the same video, which is erase, is clip. And I'm going to show clip first because clip is basically the most commonly used tool, or one of the most commonly used tools in ArcGIS. Like it sounds like, you're sort of performing an art project with this tool, and you are going to be using scissors to use one shape to clip or cut out that same sort of shape in something else. And before we do it, so that I can demonstrate a critical point, I want you to open outside and practice adding a field. I want you to add a field to outside, right? The blue thing, the big blue shape. I want you to add a field that says acres. Maybe make it a double. Come on up here and hit save. You can X out of that. Right-click the acres, like we learned a few weeks ago, and hit calculate geometry. Just tell us how big you are in acres. Hey, the field acres, what do I want to know? I want to know an area. What sort of area do you want to know? I want to know it in acres. Don't need to worry about this because it'll default to the coordinate system it's projected in, which I know is accurate. So I'll run. Bibbidi blobbidi bloop. Let it do its thing. Again, I'm just going to have a number to help us memorize so that I can make a key point, about clip when we run it. All right, so 309.53. Why I made you do that will become apparent in a second. All right, so clip is effectively, if I were to come to this little thing called inside here and click on it, so that symbology comes up, and I'll change it to a black outline. What I'm going to do is use that shape to clip, to literally cut out that same style shape from outside. So I like to think of clip and its cousin erase as arts and crafts, as literally when you used to put your hand on a piece of paper and cut around it. And clip would save the hand shape, right? It would save the shape that you're tracing and cutting out. Erase saves everything else. It saves the duplicate paper. So let's actually see how that works. Come on up here to Tools. Pick Clip. Right, and just in case you didn't remember what that was, Analysis, Extract Clip. All right, we've seen this sort of format before, but let's walk through this again. So the first thing Clip's going to want is an input feature. This is what's going to be clipped. And what we want to be clipped is outside, right? We ultimately want the information and all the stuff and the shape and blah, blah, blah from outside to come back. And clip feature is the shape you clip it to. I want to clip it to inside. Now notice, there's the result of what I did, the payoff from last video. It's no longer defaulting to a random geodatabase. It's defaulting to that folder on my desktop. And this is always what the tools will do, right? They'll just say, hey, what you clipped, the feature, and then the tool you use. That's the default name things get. You can keep that, or you can sort of change the name if you want. Maybe clip example 1 I'll use. We don't need to worry about XY tolerance for now. That'll come back, I think, in the intersect and the union video. So outside, inside, clip example, boom, 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 boom. We can hit a run. It's going to do its thing down here. And in a second, the new feature is going to be added to our map. It's going to take on the same color, which, will be confusing at first. But if you right-click it, maybe pick like a red to make it stand out, you'll see what we did, right? We took outside and we created a new shapefile that was the same size as inside. Why I wanted to do the measurement, though, will become clear in a second. If I open the attribute table now, I can see... Oh, no, that's pretty cool. Unless something got screwed up right here. Sorry, I'm talking to myself and making language. So I'm opening outside. Perfect. That's why. I was reading it as 309 because it was too short. So the actual number that we calculated in outside, notice I have outside open, 20,309 acres. That's the size of the bigger shape. When I clipped, notice the attributes come with me. That acres field came over from outside. But what did it not do? Well, it didn't change. It didn't recalculate. This is a critical thing to keep in mind when using clip or erase that I'll show you in a second. It clips the data, right? It snips it out based on a shape. It retains all the attributes, and it doesn't modify. This is not a problem for, categorical or numeric attributes, but it is something to keep in mind when your area is involved, or length or perimeter. If you had a previous field that was storing area or acres or square footage, and you clip, you absolutely need to recalculate it, right? If you want to get the appropriate geometry. It's not recalculating it automatically. It's literally just taking the attribute values from the thing that you clipped, right? And I'll prove that in a second when I actually calculate this. The acreage will certainly change right here. Right? That's the actual acreage of that shape. So that's clip. I think it's also important to show you sort of how that works with a bigger piece of data. And this is probably more commonly what it's used for. Clip will frequently be used if maybe you have a site or a neighborhood or a focus area you want to hone in on, and you'll clip out only data that is within that area. You should be thinking to yourself in the head, oh my goodness, I could do the same thing with select by location. And you absolutely could. You could have selected all of the dots that are in here and used those. But clip will work as well, right? I can come on up here to tools, clip. I can say, hey, I want my farmers markets to come back. And if you're following along, I drag those in from closest, near, and buffer. I'd still clip out the inside shape, and maybe I'll call that farmer market clip. Farmer's market clipped, run it. At first, it won't look like anything has changed, because there'll just be points laying on top of these other points. But in a second, when I turn off the original layer, right, you'll see I've only brought in these farmers markets, right, the ones that are here. And the same thing previously, the attributes are preserved, right? It's just preserving the same attributes and bringing them over for only these 5 farmers markets that happen to fall within this geometry. Let's look at the cousin, right, which is erase. Now, erase is going to give us something, totally new. Clip, just sort of when we clipped the polygon, created a mask of the shape. Whereas erase is almost going to create a Swiss cheese effect, right? It's going to snip out this circle here, and erase is going to let us keep the paper on the outside. So erase exists here in overlay, and it's the same process, right? What do you want to come back? Well, I want outside to come back, missing sort of the features that I'm erasing, which are inside, right? So it's the same exact alignment as clip. It's just what comes back to you is going to look different. All right, erase 1. Run it. Again, just because of the way these overlap on each other, it won't be clear what we did at first. But if we turn off this, we can then see what we achieved, which is we cut the hole out, right? So erase and clip, both useful. I personally, and I'll make this point to you throughout the semester, occasionally I'll find a use for clip. I think actually, that selecting by locations tends to do sort of the same thing, and some tool I'll show you soon called intersect that adds a nice little flair to it. But erase is certainly one that you would use with some commonality.